the voice of God come through, the whisper of God, Christ consciousness. When it's come through, it's actually been a voice in this. When you tap into your intuition, when you have your higher self come through, or the whisper of God, it feels like, you know, you can decipher between like what is spirit guides, what are demons, what are angels, dependent upon. Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Hello if you are new. My name is Andrea Johnson. I'm a Reiki master teacher, energy worker, psychic worker, and spiritual lifestyle content maker. Welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe. Welcome to another episode of what I like to call Conscious Coffee Talks, where I sit down and have a beautiful conversation with you beautiful souls on a topic to expand our consciousness. So I don't have a coffee today because it's like 3 in the afternoon and I will be just buzzing. So anyway, let's dive into today's topic. So today's topic is something that I struggled with so hard when I was first starting out on my journey, on my spiritual awakening, on my energy work journey. And it's something that I wish I could have had a clear road, but I didn't fully understand it until I experienced it. And that is how to listen to your intuition, or what is intuition, or what is fear. Now, I'm gonna share with you guys my experience, and this doesn't mean that if you guys have experienced something different, it's neither right nor wrong. It's just I am sharing with you what I have known for my own personal energy work sessions, from my experiences, and from what I have read in books and I know to be true. So with that said, let's dive in. So where I truly learned what intuition is was when I learned more about what psychic work is, when I took several psychic courses to dive into that. And intuition, and everyone's probably going to have a little bit of a different definition by this, but intuition to me is our 5 senses elevated to that next level. So it's like your spiritual sense. And when you think of intuition, you probably think of the third eye, right? So that's what houses really the elevated 5 senses. And what I mean by a spiritual sense or spiritual senses is when you're really tapped into your intuition, or your intention is like hyper focused on your surroundings. It's like your survival mechanisms kicked in and you're seeing everything on a different reality almost. It's the best way that I can explain it. Time slows down, things look sharper and clearer. I can see energy when I tap into this. I feel different sensations. I actually start to like hear voices, like you're hearing, like all of your 5 senses just gets elevated to like this superhuman spot. And some people may think of this more on of a less spiritual level, is it's more of like that gut feeling. Some people may put that towards, or if you really like want to get into the nitty-gritty of psychology and human brain development and stuff, it is basically a pattern recognition. That is what our brains are programmed to do. They take data points from our surroundings and they basically like create patterns or neuroplasticity pathways in our mind, right? So if you can really tap into your intuition, meaning slowing down your brain waves, expanding your consciousness, actually learning the communication with the energy per se. This is getting more woo-woo rather than psychology, but I'll go into that a little bit more. But if you can really tap into it, you can get, clear answers. People having gut feelings and actually kind of having the knowings where they're just like, I didn't want to get on that plane, and I knew like I just had a really bad feeling about it, and then the plane crashes or something, stuff like that, of where people really listen to it and there's no explanation as to why. And some people may think that this is just, by coincidence, but it actually is a human superpower per se. Intuition is like a muscle that you can work, and a lot of people struggle with intuition because it's very hard to listen to, and you can get it confused with fear. Now, I'm gonna go over some points in which I had learned through my psychic work and my spiritual journey and just, like I said, experience. There are 3 things I really think are very, very important to know when dealing with intuition and trying to listen to it based off of the fear, the voice of fear in your head, right? So intuition can be related to the third eye. You have intuition. You also have intention. Intention is the mind. It is the decision maker. It is where you get to decide, your free will per se, of where you point the energy, right? Of where you basically get to dictate your life. You are the creator of your life. So we beautiful human beings have the gift of God's mind, and that is the power of your intention, and we get to direct it wherever we go. Where energy flows, where intention goes, right? So you have the power of your intention, you have your intuition, and then you have your higher self. What I like to call the whisper of God. I like to say that the higher self, per se, if we can think about it as like either the highest thought about ourself that we hold, or we can think about it as like this chakra above our head, or the way that I like to think about it as it's this voice inside of me, right? And intuition can be this too, and I'll explain that. But it is like this portal in your heart, from what I understand. It's a voice in your heart, and you feel it coming through the heart. A lot of people call the higher self like the whisper of God. I don't want to say confused with intuition. I think it works with intuition dependent upon your level of vibration at the time. So those are 3 things to keep in mind when I talk about this stuff. So you have God's mind, which is the power of your intention. You have your intuition, which are your 5 senses elevated to the 6th sense or spiritual senses that will help you listen to your intuition. And then you have higher self, which I feel like is located in my heart chakra. And it is like the whisper of God. It is like this very loving, caring voice that just wants the best for you. Or you can think of it as the highest thought that you hold about yourself. So keep those in mind. It's really kind of hard to explain because these things are going to be working together almost, because it's all working to create you. You are this thing, everything in the body. So that kind of brings me to my next point is I want you to think of when you're trying to listen to what is your intuition and what is fear. I want you to think of the human body as like a radio. It is a radio, and your intention, the power of your intention is the antenna or the knob that you get to tune in to whatever radio station that you want to tune into. And this is what is going to determine the level of awareness or the connection that you have to be able to listen to your intuition. There's so many eyes. This knob that you'll be able to turn into the frequency or the radio station to be able to listen to your intuition. Yes, because fear can drown out the intuition. Now you say intuition, okay? So to tap into this communication with the universe, I like to think of it as like I did with my psychic course. I learned to use my 5 senses to communicate with the universe on the next level. So I used my intuition to learn how to communicate with the universe, and sometimes it communicated by colors. Symbols were given to me. Sometimes I could hear voices. Sometimes I had knowings. Sometimes I have feelings. It's your clairs basically. And determined on how your energy is in the moment, what is being spun in this body, because the power of your intuition gets to dictate that, right? You get to decide what frequencies are in and out of that body, of your body, right? So the higher the frequency, the better communication you're going to have to be able to listen to your intuition, right? So you want to raise your vibration, raise your frequency. And how do you do that? You have to get fear out. Basically calm your brain waves. So a lot of people listen to their bodies and pay attention to the way that they feel. So if you want, and I've learned this in my emotion code class, and of course I've done some stuff with body code. When you pay attention to the body, which is the subconscious mind, where it stores the true energy of your belief system and what you're trying to clear out. When you pay attention to your body, when you ask a question, your body will give you the answer. The mind is gonna go no matter what. The monkey mind is going to keep going. It is very, very difficult to control the monkey mind. Honestly, it's impossible to control the mind. You have to honestly let it play out and then calm your thoughts. You almost have to take yourself out of it to get the thoughts to calm down. So that is where, when I do a lot of energy work, psychic work, stuff like that, I'm not really in my head, besides I'm directing the energy where to go, right? Like with imagination or something like that. I'm working more in my body and paying attention to how I feel and listening to it, because there is this soft voice that comes through. And it comes through, some people may experience the gut feeling of, they get a feeling in their gut and they're like, oh, and this is where I really feel like this is where your intuition comes in on how high or low you want to tap into the energy and how it can meet you halfway to communicate with you. So maybe some people who are in the day-to-day life have the gut feeling, and that's the way that they can consciously be aware of their intuition. Now, when I do energy work or things like that, like I said, I am in a heightened state of awareness, and I'm communicating with the energy on another level, to where I experience a lot of sensations in my body. Feelings, tingles, heat. It's communicating, showing me colors. My intuition is like on the next level. My vibration is higher, and I'm more consciously aware of what's actually going on. Whereas the day-to-day people may consider the intuition of asking a question and paying attention to their body. They may get a good feeling, and it might be small, or they may actually get a gut feeling. So you see kind of the difference of what I'm talking about here. Pay attention to how your body responds to you. Don't sit in the mind. The mind likes to play tricks on you. Yes, you can get messages and the mind can decode the messages, or you have knowings. But I like to say there are two different kinds of knowings. There is the knowing in the mind, and then you get the knowing in the body, in the heart. Besides all these signs that, I was talking about earlier, of communication methods, but there is this voice in your heart, and that is where I have heard the higher self, the whisper of God, whatever you want to call it, come through. And it is so soft. It is so soft, and there is no judgment. There is almost, it's so eerie because there's almost no emotion behind it, just wisdom, it's like the answer that it gives you is just so nestled in this perfect bundle of words that just are wisdom. That's the best way that I can describe it. But there's no judgment attached to it, no matter your thought. When you ask a question, it's going to give you the answer. Same thing with your body. You ask it a question, your body's going to respond in some way. That's my whole work with emotion code, is through communication with the body. When you're trying to decipher, and I guess we're getting to the point of the video now, we had to build the foundation, right guys? So when you are trying to decipher between fear, what is fear, and what is truly you, you just ask the question and you see how you feel on the inside. How do you feel? How does something make you feel? Don't pay attention to the thoughts, right? That's going to keep going. Pay attention to the way that you feel. That will be your guide. The body is your guide. This could probably get a little confusing too, because sometimes you have these thoughts of things that you want to do and you're like, oh, that would be so cool, but I'm scared. And then you get the feeling of scared, and then you try to listen in, and then you're like, but I feel scared. Like this just can't be right then. I guess I shouldn't do this. Fear can coexist with love. It really can. But you have to imagine it without fear. So if you did this thing, just imagine it working out perfectly. You're like, oh, well, yeah, I would really like to do that. But then there's all these worries that you're thinking of the worst possible case scenario or stuff like that that's going to trigger anxiety. And that is the mind playing tricks on you, right? So you have to really pay attention to how you feel. Fear is the illusion, and the action you take in whatever vibration that you're in will be the reality that you create. So if you take an action out of fear, but you're doing it with the intention of love, because you really want to do this thing, you know it's going to be such a great time, you know it's going to be so good for you, the fear will end up dissipating and you'll have a great time. You know, have you ever wanted to do something, but you were so scared, or then you got the feeling of, I don't know, I don't think I really want to do that, because it was fear. But actually you truly did. So you can imagine things played out perfectly without fear. And that is your intuition talking to you. At least that's how I like to think of it. At least that's how I've used it as a tool. So that's when thoughts can creep up and we get confused about what is the actual voice of us and what is the mind. And that's where you have to pay attention to your body and to your emotions. You have to calm the thoughts enough to pay attention to you. It's an illusion. What you're trying to do here is get the mind and the heart into coherence. And when you get those thoughts that creep up that are fear, they're not in coherence. You're trying to get the power of your intention in the same alignment as your heart. Or it's already in alignment, really. You're just trying to remember who you are. So that is how it's kind of a tool. You're trying to get the mind and the heart in coherence, because when that happens, that is how you create the reality of your dreams, and there will be no fear. There will be no fear moving forward. It's the power of your intentions, your thought, in alignment with the feeling heart, the portal of God. It is a this organ literally is a consciousness of its own. I've had it speak to me. The voice came out of my chest. I don't know how else to explain it. But anyway, so basically guys, to try and sum this up, because I feel like I had to cover some ground here to actually build a foundation. Listening to your intuition versus fear, if you get anything from this video, just understand that your intuition will never speak fear to you. That is the mind. That is the illusion of fear. When you tap into your intuition, when you have your higher self come through, or the whisper of God, it feels like there's this voice, and it's very soft, it's very quiet, it's very hard to hear, because if there's fear, you won't hear it. That's why it's very important to learn how to control your mind and calm your thoughts. But when you do hear it, it actually comes from within your body, is the best way that I can describe it. For me, it was a point in my heart. I have experienced gut feelings in my stomach to where the vibration felt a little bit different of how tapped in I was. Remember the intuition of, or the power of intention to raise or lower my vibration. My vibration was not as high at that point. But when I've had the voice of God come through, the whisper of God, Christ consciousness, when it's come through, it's actually been a voice in the center of my chest. And this is why I call the heart chakra the portal of God. This is where I imagine energy coming out of me and through my hands when I do Reiki sessions, because that has been the truth of where I've known it to exist. I do truly believe chakras are portals that spin energy not only in us, but also pull energy from other dimensions. They're connected to other dimensions. It's another video. But point being, if you have the voice of fear, that is not your intuition. If there is any voice of fear, there's no intuition. The voice of God coming through is non-judgmental. There's actually really no emotion behind it from what I've experienced. It's very much a soft voice that is honestly pure wisdom. And there is just some kind of pure comfort in it, and that knowing that it's like, this is it. Like, this is it. There's no questioning it. So if there's any inkling of fear, you have to get rid of the fear to actually hear the voice. And that's why fear can coexist with this voice too. This is kind of like a oxymoron because fear can coexist with love, but you might just have that gut feeling that this is what you need to do and it's going to work out. But this is where you also use the tools of clearing fear out, calming your mind, imagining the best possible case scenario where no fear is involved. How do you feel about it then? You're taking action from a point of being. So when you make decisions out of a state where fear is involved, there is potential for fear to manifest in your actions, in your reality, right? When you can get it to calm down and get fear out of your field, and you take action from a point of being that has love, that is designing your dream reality. That it will bring you love in your decision making. So hopefully that makes sense. This is where you can understand that the voices kind of coming in and playing in the mind, you know, you can decipher between like what is spirit guides, what are demons, what are angels, dependent upon what they're saying, the frequency that they're actually bringing forth when they're talking, the tone of their voice. But everybody's going to have a different discernment on what that means to them, because everybody's perception is so different. So this is where I say, take what I say and maybe, you know, apply it in your life, test it, see what works for you, because we're all going to be different. So each one of us is going to have a different kind of communication style with the universe. Psychic Course 101. So hopefully this made sense to you guys. This was, like I said, my experience with it. So I don't know if you experienced something different, totally fine. But like I said, your intuition, there is no fear. So, sending you guys all of my light and all of my love. We'll see ya.